Here in Yosemite Valley, I'm reminded of the purity of a natural environment. I'm reminded of how the flow of life, depicted by this beautiful Merced River, this mountain stream, this is like our body, and we need the purity to be restored to our bodies if we're struggling with health issues. If that describes you, people get really entangled in disease labels. And then, unfortunately, not only do they get branded with disease labels, but they also take ownership of those. Maybe that's you or someone you know. And I know that I used to be that way, but I'm not that way anymore. I've learned through years of study and research in this topic of health and well-being that purity, like this beautiful environment, is what our body needs. The more pure we can eat and drink and breathe, the better off our health will be. The more that we can eliminate, the better off our health will be. And just like these symbiotic relationships here in the National Forest of Yosemite, the national park, this was preserved 150 years ago because there was a tremendous land grab going on at the time. And that land grab helped environmentalists like Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir realize that in order to preserve this park, this area, it had to be set aside. And we think about the purity of our life, like we need to make, just like they did, they made this a priority to preserve this. Well, we need the same thought process. We are the beautiful ecosystem of organs and cells and microbes and all things working in a symbiotic relationship, just the way it is here in Yosemite. And that's the reason why the more pure we are, the more pure our thoughts, our words, our actions, our diet, our health care, like the more pure all of those things are, the healthier that we can be. But if we looked at the stream and if there was trash, tires, plastic bottles, if that was soiled with pollution, well, it would make the stream sick, and the fish would be sick, and the birds who drink from the stream would be sick, and the animals who come and replenish themselves in the stream, they also would be sick. So is it any wonder then, when we look at the environment of our body, if we're not eliminating toxins more rapidly or at the same rate that we're consuming them, then just like this pristine stream, we're no longer pristine. And now when we go to get help from our healthcare provider, well, what do? If you're in an allopathic medicine, you know what they do. They run some tests, they create a label, and they write you a prescription. And not one of those things helped purify the problem. And that's the reason why I'm inspired to make this video here at Yosemite. On this segment of Living Prevention TV, I just want to have you join me in this magnificent environment and to really think about how daily decisions create long-term impact. The way that Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir made this decision 150 years ago to preserve this part of the world. 2 million acres were set aside as a sanctuary. Well, this is what we need also in our body. We need to create sanctuaries of space, places where we heal. If we're living too stressful of a life, go out into the woods. Go by nature. Help your body lower its stress load. You know, what I love about being here in Yosemite is that I have absolutely no cell phone signal. I have no communication with any device, and it's wonderful because I know that I am not being inundated with 5G. And even though I do many proactive things to protect myself from 5G and from Wi-Fi and from EMFs and all those things, there's still a toxin load, no doubt. And being here in this pristine environment reminds me of how important it is to create your own pristine environment and do everything you can to be as proactive as possible. Things, of course, we talk about here on Living Prevention TV, and they involve, our diet. Our diet is a big, multiple times a day factor, as well as our water, what we're consuming, what we're drinking, and beverages. Those are definitely major ways that we're contributing to either our own toxicity or our own purity. But then, of course, there's other things, like the things that we think about, the things that we say to ourselves, that internal conversation that we have. Is it self-love or is it self-hatred? And when I say self-love, I don't mean narcissism, but I mean seeing yourself through a lens of forgiveness, of kindness, of grace, of compassion. Understanding that, we're always just learning. And I know for myself, telling on myself, this has been a real struggle because when you were raised, if you've been raised in a very toxic environment, then your conversation with yourself because of your subconscious is, and I'm going to get the ducks going by here. But, it's one of those things that we have the right to change as we mature, as we become more educated, as we grow as a person, and we realize that kind of self-disrespect is not conducive to being a healthy, well-balanced person. And so it's very important that we not only show love to others, but we include love for ourselves. In fact, that was something that I used to always kind of not really understand when Jesus spoke about the greatest command, of course, is to love our Father. But then he said the second was to love your neighbor as yourself. And when you're a person who's self-defeating, self-deprecating, self-destructive, all those words of toxicity, it's kind of like it doesn't compute. But, as you do the self-work and you realize that it's time to change that conversation, it's time to realize that forgiving yourself for mistakes you've made, forgiving yourself for people that you trusted who didn't deserve it and who violated that trust, for not knowing all the things that you know today, for being overconfident, being not as humble as you needed to be when you needed to be. We all make these mistakes, but they're part of the growth. And the one thing I love about my age, I am in my 60s. And one thing I love about this age is that it's like the more I've learned that I didn't know, the more I appreciate how much I still have to learn. And that learning is a lifetime. You never stop learning. And I think that's where sometimes we get stuck in life, is that we think that we are, oh, there's a duck. Hi, little hen. We get stuck in life and we think that we have the answers. But really, humility says we don't have the answers. And that we need to always stay a student. We always need to stay humble and learn and recognize that we can grow. And that's where growth comes from. It comes from humility. I'm going to zoom in here on this duck. Oh, she's feeding herself. See how beautiful this environment is? What a healing place to be. And maybe you can't come to Yosemite, but maybe you can find your own Yosemite. I'm sure there's some park somewhere that you can go and you can enjoy your natural environment. And then you'll be blessed, as we are here today, with these beautiful creatures that just show up. And they remind us about how beautiful the natural life is, because they have this God-given wisdom that gives them the ability to thrive in their natural environment. And that's really a powerful lesson for all of us, is to think about our natural environment. Our natural environment isn't the one we're living. That is for sure. Our natural environment is eating clean food, drinking clean water right out of a mountain stream just like this, being with those that we love, giving praise and honor to our Father in heaven for all that He does for us. This is what we were made for. But because of the life that we have in this modern world, our life isn't like that, is it? And that's why we need to reset. We need to go into nature and just recalibrate and be reminded excuse me, to be reminded about what's important and what's not, about what's pristine and what isn't, what's natural and what's unnatural. Getting that clarification, getting that reminder that to breathe, to enjoy, to relax, to de-stress, to get out of a sympathetic nervous state, because that's what our world is designed to do. It is designed to keep us in a chronic state of a sympathetic nervous state, of survival mode. And that actually is not conducive to health, survival mode. It's okay for a short term, but it is not okay for a long term.